Simon, thank you for coming from London.
Thank you very much for having me.
Steffi had asked, I think a lot of folks in the audience know that AlphaFold exists, and I think folks know that it won the Nobel Prize and so on and so forth. But you worked on it. You played a key role in part of it. Can you just sort of bring us up to speed before we break the sound barrier? Bring us up to speed on what did AlphaFold do, and what is the sort of before and after of it?
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic point to start, Kevin. Maybe I'll give a really short primer to the problem. So, what even are proteins, right? Our human bodies are actually made up of roughly 20,000 different ones. And they're really responsible for all the biology, all the chemistry that goes on in our bodies at the molecular level. And equally, if anything goes wrong in our bodies, like for instance a serious disease, that's usually associated with either a malfunction or something on those lines between proteins in our body. So they're really significant for our health and beyond. Now, proteins themselves, they're large molecules. They're made up of what people call amino acids. And you can imagine them as being sort of connected up in a bead of strings, so really like sequentially. And that sequence of amino acid gives rise to a 3D structure, a geometric structure. And that in turn gives rise to the functions that these proteins fulfill in our bodies. Now, this sort of relationship between sequence to structure is what is at the core of the protein structure prediction problem. People, for a long time really, biologists, researchers all over the world have been interested in understanding the functions of these proteins for various reasons, including for health, and they had to really go out of their way to do these painstaking experiments to try to crystallize them and determine their structures in lab experiments, which took months, if not years, and sometimes it was impossible. The grand challenge of protein structure prediction was really trying to go from the sequence with a computational method to the structure, trying to predict that, rather than doing these long experiments. Mm-hmm. And that grand challenge, it has been standing since 50 years or so, has been worked on by many groups all over the world. There had been a significant and long-standing computational assessment called CASP. Mm-hmm. It's been organized for 30 years, biannual assessment. And at DeepMind, we sort of build a team to work on this problem, to then enter this challenge, to enter this computational assessment. And really in 2020, that's what we've done. We, at CASP, released AlphaFold 2. And really, it took the world by surprise how good the model was. Until then, there was not all that much progress on the problem, to be honest. There was some people were edging up, but no one would have ever used the computational method over an experiment. And suddenly came AlphaFold 2 in 2020, and here it was, rivaling experiment. The organizers recognized the performance as just that, literally on par with experiment, which was mind-blowing with an AI system. And of course, since then, as we've just heard earlier, and as you might be aware, John Chumper, who led our team at DeepMind, and Demis, the CEO of DeepMind, received the Nobel Prize for chemistry for AlphaFold 2, and yeah, it was really fantastic. Last December, we went as a team and sort of together with John and Demis, collected the Nobel in Stockholm, which was really a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
But the prize was last year, but the research, the accomplishment was 5 years ago, which in this time is a century. Right,
yes.
And a lot has happened since then, which is really where you've gone on to start Latent Labs, for example. Can you talk about sort of what comes after AlphaFold? Like where does, if that's the beginning of the acceleration, where does it go?
Yeah, so AlphaFold you can conceptualize as a sort of AI microscope, if you will. It allows you to visualize protein structures, but it doesn't create new ones. It doesn't create new drugs. It doesn't change the proteins, right? It lets you see nature. Mm-hmm. And then, in 2020, when we released it, that was 2 years before even ChatGPT was unrolled, right? So a lot has happened, as you said. So, text modeling, image modeling, video modeling, multimodal modeling has really sort of gone above and beyond since then. And that, of course, also had impacts on protein generation and protein modeling. It really coined maybe a field of generative biology, if you will, where people, including us at Latent Labs, are working on generating new molecules, new proteins, for instance, for therapeutic effect. And why this is significant is the pharma and biotech industry until then, and actually still today, heavily relying on discovery processes. So rather than being able to control what these molecules look like, they actually go and screen randomly with very large libraries. And that's, again, sort of very costly, time-consuming, and you end up often with results that are not optimal, and so forth. So trying to generate from scratch with precise control, that's what we're doing at Latent Labs, and we've actually just released our first frontier AI model that allows you to do just that. It's a model that lets you generate proteins from scratch, not found in nature, that are highly precise, that interact with biology, and that are great starting points for drugs.
I just want to take a second and just let that land, right? Just the idea of generating proteins that are not found in nature. It's you talk about sort of push-button protein design, and what are the tools to even do that? Like, how does one engage it?
Yeah, so in our case, we've released our models in a wide access platform, so researchers can sign up, log in, equally commercial entities, biotech, pharma companies, and use our models push buttons. So as opposed to screening, which takes weeks to months, you can literally within seconds get designs. And actually in here behind us, you see a glimpse of the Latent Labs platform that we've released about a month ago, where that's what you see right there. You can start with a target protein, which the fundamental mechanism of drugs is engaging, binding to other proteins that are disease associated, and make specific binders to them. And that's what our platform allows you to do. So you start with a target protein, you select where you want to bind, and then within minutes you can generate with our AI models proteins that could be good starting points for drugs.
And this is obviously a very expensive platform running on very sophisticated hardware, or?
It is running on, of course, GPU from our friends from NVIDIA, and yes, but
I mean,
the model
for the user.
For the user, it is out there in a free tier right now. Okay, so we're actually very much modeling this off of the likes of chatbot platforms like ChatGPT. The user here gets a free number of credits that renew daily, and you get these proteins for free right now within this free tier.
And so, how do you think about this as a business?
Yes. So most biotech companies, actually, even today, even when they're using AI systems, they're operating in a model where they're prioritizing discovering their own drugs. And that's because there's this sort of predominant idea that the value accrues in the molecule. And that's not wrong. But within sort of this idea, if you follow that strictly, which is what people have done so far, really what you need to do is you optimize molecules that you then sell to pharma companies, and that's famously a risky endeavor, a lengthy endeavor. And so, as a biotech company, you can only take on so many partnerships, so many projects, and you're fundamentally limited by that. And we do it entirely differently. We really focus on the AI part of things. We develop and continue to optimize these models with the idea of really getting to computational push-button drug design over time, and then allow others to use these models and use these in their workflows. And so we're an enabler in that sense, and we're going after scale, engaging with the industry at large. And actually, we have many hundreds of users already since the month that we've been live, and biotech and pharma companies using the platform too. So that's how we're going about it.
And you talk sometimes about sort of democratizing protein design, which is it's a kind of a crazy idea, I think, for most folks, because there's probably nobody in the room was like, God, I just wish I could do protein design myself. But in real terms, it is possible, right? And so who are the kinds of people who are using this, and what might they be using it for?
Yeah. So protein design, is still fundamentally a very young field, and it's been basically, this small group of people that sit at that intersection between computational methods and biology that have been able to do work in it. And fundamentally, you needed to speak both languages up until now. But we're trying to change that. That's what we mean by democratizing it. We want people such as biologists without an AI background, people at the lab bench, performing experiments, for instance, doing research, to be able to use these tools without requiring AI infrastructure, without having to know about the latest AI models. Just literally push a button, as you can see behind us here, and get designs out that are ready for the lab. And that's even, I'm not even going at length into how complicated it normally is.
Right.
And it's like pipelines of different models strung after each other. At least in the past, that's been the case, where really you had to know exactly how to go about it. And this is really simplifying it. And we think putting it in this form factor really makes it accessible to everyone that does research in this area.
Right. There have been intersections between biology and AI for 5 or 10 years, but in the same way that like sort of GPT-3 existed for quite a while before ChatGPT, right? That by making a tool that anyone can access, it changes the power of the models underneath it. Do you feel like this is analogous in any way?
Yeah, very much so. I think it's exactly this playbook, right? We continue to improve our models. We ship them quickly to users in our platform. They benefit from the latest advances. We learn on a meta level, right? Like what works, what people like. Our users voluntarily, often tell us what they're doing, give us feedback, which is immensely valuable. And actually, we've already within just this month, which is incredible. If you think about the timelines in the lab, heard back from great user successes in the lab, which is super exciting to us. They've been able to tackle problems that other models have failed and other techniques, let alone experimental techniques, didn't work on at all. For instance, relating to anesthetics, sort of people are trying to replace opioids with the kind of designs they're able to make here, and it looks super promising. So we're very excited about this community feedback and that dialogue that ensues.
Actually, you just mentioned sort of other models. So there are other possibilities to do this kind of thing, but not the same thing. Can you talk about how you fit within that landscape and how your models perform? Basically.
Yes. Thanks. Absolutely. We've actually meticulously benchmarked against 2-3 other leading players in that area, and we've gone out of our way to actually do that in the lab where it matters. So we've taken their best literature-reported designs and benchmarked one-on-one, and we come out on top. So actually, this is the leading model in this area right now. So that's what we're really excited about, and that shows in the success rates that you get. So if you let's say test 100 designs, we saw that up to sort of 64 of them work in the lab. And for the non-biologists in the audience, which I assume are many, that's mind-blowing. Like normally, you screen libraries that have the size of 10 to the 12, meaning literally 10 trillion of random molecules that you sort of, if you want to use that metaphor, throw against the wall and see what sticks, and you end up perhaps finding one that works, and it's probably suboptimal. So these kind of success rates are completely unheard of so far in the field for binding, and that's what's making this so different, and that's the power of AI here, and what we're so excited about.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the best ways I ever heard it described was, it's the difference between looking for needles in a haystack and just making needles, right? Like, it's like you could just make a needle.
That's great. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So I think most everybody their greatest experience, their most common interaction with AI is with some large language model, and it's easy enough to validate whether what it says is true or false. But how do you validate something like this?
Yeah, so we have computational ways of doing it, but the end sort of answer, the final answer, the true answer really has to be found in the lab. And at Latent Labs, that's why we do have an internal lab. We have a lab in San Francisco. We're actually based in London. That's where the AI team sits. But then in San Francisco, in our own wet lab, we're able to test these designs very quickly. So that's what we've done and have published the results of. But equally, there are the sort of computational ways of verifying are getting better and better, which is also adding value to the platform. So we're surfacing that to the user. We can predict what is the likelihood of this design to work well, and that allows you to actually hone in on the space of high success designs.
Okay, all right. We're sort of starting to run low on time, and let me just try this. Like, it's 2035. It's 10 years from now. How what's changed as from based on what happened 10 years ago when all of this opened up? Like how will we feel the effects of what is happening right now?
Yeah. So what our technology today does is it gives you proteins that bind with high success, but those proteins, those molecules, they're not drugs yet. You still have to optimize them. You still have to check how well will they perform in an organism such as ourselves. But I do think within the 10-year time frame, we will really make true this vision of getting to push-button drug design. So when you use our models in 10 years, I think what we'll get is a really high chance that this molecule is a drug that could have therapeutic effect and be safe and precise. And I think that creates a whole different world where medicines will become much more abundant. We'll have cures for a lot more diseases than we have today. Probably all cancers, really, I think, will be close to being cured. So that's what I'm super excited about. And I do think, it sounds a bit mythical at this point, but I think it's within reach. That's what this technology stands to do, I think.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. Simon, thank you so much. And thanks to the audience for sitting through some kind of emergency. And thank you. Thanks a lot. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.